word deduction, what does that mean?
Reduce.
Okay, reduce. So when you're talking about deductions in this particular case, we're going to talk about federal withholding taxes that you can deduct from your paycheck. When you're talking about withholding taxes, a lot of this stuff in this section right here, you probably don't even realize that it gets taken out of your check. Okay? So, your withholding taxes, any deduction is a subtraction from gross pay by federal, state, Social Security, and Medicare. And we'll go over all of this. So if you would look at your check stub, on the right-hand side probably, they list all of these things. How much did the federal government take from you? How much did the state? How much did Social Security? And so on and so forth. They'd each take a little from your check. Now, depending on how much you made, maybe they don't take any of this stuff out. Okay? Tiff only worked one time during that pay period. She probably doesn't have a whole lot, if any, taxes taken out. Withholding taxes, it again depends on your wage, your marital status, and the number of withholding allowances. What's a withholding allowance? Well, a withholding allowance is like a dependent on your amount of money that you're making. So right now, the withholding allowances that are taken out for you guys is probably just one. You always get one taken out, and that's for yourself. So the other thing that you would have to worry about then is, does Tragan have any kids that he claims? Probably not, or hopefully not right now. So if he did, he could claim those people and they would be another withholding. Okay? So you can get a withholding allowance for one for yourself, like I said. You get one for your spouse if you want. So you can decide if you and your spouse are going to file together or separately. And then whatever you do, then it'll make your amounts go up or down. And then one for each child or dependent. Again, a dependent is if I'm actually taking care of that person. So it might not even be a kid, or it might not even be your kid. Let's just say that you had a kid and they moved in with you. So you could definitely say that that person was dependent on the amount of money that you were making. You could actually get another withholding for that person. Okay? But what this does then, it reduces the amount of taxes that are withheld. Okay? And this is really important, so turn to page 41. This little chart, you'll use a lot of these little charts from here on out. And this little chart right here will show you how much money you're going to take out because of whatever it happens to do. So, there's one on page 41 and there's one on page 42. That's kind of the bad thing. They're basically the same thing, but if you notice the top part of it, it says on page 41 it's for single people, on page 42 it's for married people. So you get to decide how you are claiming. All right? So notice on the left-hand side it says at least how much you made, and then it goes, so it's in intervals of what, $10 or whatever. At least $350, but less than $360. And then across the top, it goes from 0 to, what, 10? Here's the thing about it. So if you're the only person that is relying on this money, you can actually not even claim yourself. I believe I don't claim myself. So why I do this is because I would rather just get more money on my check. If I would take myself into consideration, they would take more out, and then at the end of the year when I file my taxes, I get more money back. So you just got to decide. I'd rather just have it right now. That makes sense? So my withholding is 0. That's totally up to you. You got to make that decision. And that's why they say 0 here, okay? So basically in these examples, they'll ask you or they'll tell you, is the person married or single? And then how many they're going to do, Okay, so a single person makes $380 a week with one withholding allowance. What federal taxes are withheld? So again, on page 41, we would look at it and how much money would they take out. So make sure you're looking at the singles chart, and then one, and then find $380. So what would you say? $33 would be right. Okay? So they're going to take $33 out of your check, and you know when they send you your check, they would have a little tally over here for federal withholding. They would show $33, and then your between your gross amount and what you would take home. So they would subtract that, and then that would get you to your take home. Let's go down to this one. Amy. Don't know what Amy. Amy is married and makes $514 a week. She claims 2 withholding allowances. So again, now we're going to turn the page. Find 514 down the left-hand side and 2 withholding. So our answer would be how much? How much? 23. 23? Yeah. So notice, if you look at your chart, right, and you get way over here to the, if you have 10 kids, no matter how much money you make, they're not taking any money out. So the more people that are dependent on you, the more money you get to keep because you got to have all that money. You know what I'm saying? That makes sense? So, again, the little charts, yeah.
Wait, so these are kids?
These are some kind of dependents. So, if you had your grandparents that lived with you and they weren't making, you know, they weren't getting any income, but they were dependent on you, you could file to see if you could use them as dependents. And so if that would count, so like in your family, how many brothers and sisters? So you would get, mom and dad would get 4, and then they could have 2 more with 6 because they could do both of themselves too. So they could do 6 and then figure it out. And then if grandpa and grandma were living in, you could get up to 8. Or somebody else that you could prove was dependent on your salary. Make sense? Okay? Any questions with the table?
What's the point of tax? So the government has more money?
Yeah. So the government's getting money. So like your state taxes would be used for that road going to Hinton.
How do we get it back?
How do you get it back?
Like when we get it back, like they already spent it, so how do we get it back?
That's a good question. It's like they would put it kind of in a pot and it would grow interest. Oh. And so they would use it and then kind of then give it back to you, in a sense. That's a good question, though. Okay. But they would use this, so especially like city taxes and stuff, that's why we would, you know, put in that brick walkway down on Central and that kind of stuff.
And then when they say like people can find you more money than other people can, like what does that mean?
That would be kind of digging into these withholding people. So if you had your, you know, grandparents living with you, then maybe your dad could file 2 more spots for this chart. So they're trying to they're kind of finagling the system in a sense. You know what I mean? They're kind of being sneaky about it and trying to get you more money. And that's where, you know, the 0 to the 1, then I can get more money at the beginning instead of waiting for it at the end because I might not get it back anyway, depending on how much I make and that kind of stuff. But that's all the total of what you're going to take out, and that includes some of the stuff that was inside.
Yeah.
So that's great questions. Anything else with those 2 charts? So then the next thing we talk about is Social Security and Medicare taxes, and we would call these FICA taxes. Okay? So FICA taxes are disability benefits, Medicare, retirement benefits, and survivor's benefits. Retirement benefits, this would be something set up for you by your company. So like right now, if you worked in a public school, your retirement benefits are called IPERS. All right, and it's a very good system for us at a a private school, the diocese set up a little like bank account for each person. And instead of having IPERs, we do it that way. So we have like an IRA account that is kind of our retirement. Medicare and disability, that would just be, basically you're putting money in there all the time. And at the end of towards the end of your life, you would then finally qualify for some of this. Now, unfortunately for you guys, Social Security is probably not going to be around when you get to that age, because it's going to be all used up. Okay? But when you're doing this now, you got to make sure of this. When they talk about these two taxes, they can do them individually, or you can do it as one thing. If you do it as one thing, it's called FICA tax. Otherwise, you can do them individually as Social Security tax and Medicare tax. Okay? So, if you do it as them together, you're going to use 7.65% as your overall percentage to figure out what you're going to actually have to pay. If you're going to do them individually, Social Security is 6.2% by itself, and Medicare is 1.45 by itself. But again, if you would add those two numbers up, that's where the 7.65 comes about. And again, now you're going to take those percentages by what you would bring in for that weekly amount. Okay? Now here's the problem, or here's where it gets a little interesting. If you earn more than $80,400 at one job, your employer can't deduct Social Security on the money over that. Okay, so doctors and that kind of thing. If they made $120,000 for the year, their employer can only do the first $80,400. So that's just one number that you kind of got to get into your head for Social Security only. Social Security only goes to $80,400. So in the problem, you got to make sure that you read it real slow, and you go through and you look at it. How much did they make? Anything over that, you would subtract, and you're only doing $80,400. Anything over that doesn't get counted. If you earn more than $80,400 from several jobs, each employer can deduct the 6.2%. So let's just say that you had a full-time job, and then on top of that, you went and worked on the weekends somewhere, and maybe at the nights for a couple times, and your grand total went to $90,000. Well, that $90,000 doesn't mean anything because you're only making really $70,000 from your full-time job, and that's under the $80,000, right? And then all of your other part-time jobs, you would get individually taxed also. Okay. So, then it says down here, Medicare tax is the 1.45%, and it's applied to all wages. So really, if they ask you to find the FICA tax, you're going to use this one percentage of 7.65, or if your grand total is under that $80,400, you can do the 7.65%. Unless they ask you to individually find both Medicare and Social Security amounts. All right, so in this case right here, first example, it says, find the total FICA tax. I don't really care about the individual categories, the Social Security and the Medicare individually. I just care about the grand total. So I'm going to take $35,000 and multiply it by what? 7.65%. So what do I have to do to that percent? 0.07. Right. So I'm going to take 0.0765 times 35,000. And I can do the whole thing because it's under the 80,400. So notice here, my FICA taxes, if I made $35,000 a year, I'm going to pay $2,677 in Social Security and Medicare. No matter what. I get it taken out. Now this doesn't include what we talked about at the beginning. the federal withholding. So again, this would be its own category on your check stub. And it's probably broken down into the two sections, the Social Security and the Medicare one. Okay. And again, then this would probably be for a year, so I would divide by 12. So basically, they're going to take $223 out every single month. And then obviously, if it's divided by, if you get it like weekly, like you guys said you do at the parlor, then they would break it down even further. Okay. So, how about this one right here? When they do the 92,000. If they do the 92,000 now, this is the one where you got to be a little bit careful. Okay? So think about this one. What would I do if I was doing the 92,000? Right. So I'm going to do 92,000 times, I can do the whole thing for Medicare, so I'm going to take that times 0.0145. Because I can do that total. Because it doesn't matter. Now the other part of it, I got to take 92,000 minus, what was our key number? 80,400. And so I'm eliminating 11,600. I don't really need that number except for the Medicare part. Because I'm going to do the whole Medicare part anyway. And we already solved that. So I don't really even have to do the subtraction part. I just know that I have to go back to the 80,400. They don't really ask me about the stuff that's over the top. So anytime that I have anything over 80,400, I'm going to take that times. But remember now, we kind of split it up. So now I got to go back and use the 6.2% because I'm just doing the Social Security part. Because I already found out that I'm going to pay the $1,334. So I'm going to take this times 0.062. And I'm going to do something wrong. I'll get two multiplications.
So if it's over 84,000 or 80,400, then you're going to have to find them separately.
Yes, then you have to do it separately. Okay. And I'm always going to have this. So anything over 80,400, my total will be $4,984.80 every single time for Social Security. Because it can only go up to that amount, as long as it's combined. And then I already found that my other one was plus 1334. So my grand total for FICA tax, because that's what they asked me for, would have been $6,318.80. So again, yeah, that's an automatic. That's what I get taken out no matter what. Divided by 12 months, I'm losing $526 a month. Okay. Any questions with any of that stuff? So in some of the, I guess, simpler ones, it says Sarah earned $562 last week. Find the total FICA taxes that were deducted. Find the total FICA tax deducted for the weekly wages. So that's the same thing. But so $562, if they say total FICA taxes, then I'm still going back and using 7.65. Right? So again, you need to kind of start drilling this number into your head if you're going to do it total. And then these two also, 6.2 and 1.45. But here they specifically say just the total. So I would take $562 times 0.0765. So this person's losing $42, basically $43 for that week. That doesn't seem like it that much, but you take 43 times 12 and all of a sudden I'm missing out on basically one paycheck. $515.
So if it's the that's from total FICA, then you just use
7.65.
And then if it's not the total, you use.
If they ask you to find it individually, then you would use 6.2 for Social Security and 1.45 for Medicare. You do them individually and give that. You'll get the same total if you add those together that you would get doing .765.
It just wants to know the individual.
Sometimes they might just say, what is the specific Social Security and Medicare instead of saying FICA. If that's what it is.
So FICA
FICA is those two together as a whole. So, okay with that? Basically the same thing with those two. Then they ask to try to figure out total deductions and your net pay. So what does it mean by net pay? Net pay would basically to me be what you got to take home. What your check actually that you can cash. Not your gross pay. Your gross pay would be what you would figure out for your hourly. So, the amount your check is written for after federal taxes, what we talked about at the beginning a little bit, Social Security, Medicare, and other deductions. What are other deductions? What else could somebody take out of your check every single month? Okay, exactly right. Perfect. If you broke something, he said. If you have to buy a shirt or a uniform or a hat or something for work, maybe they take that out. If you have like dues, union dues or something, they might take that out. For us here at Galen, you can take your insurance right out of it. So I never really pay my insurance bill for medical insurance. They just take it out of my check and it's kind of just on there. So you could have that. That would be good. Parking. You guys don't think about that very much here, right? But even in Sioux City, if you work downtown, you might have to have a parking permit. Well, they might do that for you. Or you might pay for it, but you're really not ever going to give them money. They're just going to deduct it. Daycare. Maybe your company actually has a daycare system, and you're taking your kids there. Okay? So those are all little things that could happen to be, food, right? So maybe they had a food program, or you worked at a restaurant, Jerry's. Do you have to pay for things sometimes? Do you get something off, maybe? Can you charge something?
Shirts.
Shirts? Perfect. Okay. So, food. So, here we go. This is basically where we're going to look at a little bit more complex problem. So, maybe we want to write this one down. Mary earned $426 before taxes. Now, again, remember, this is probably a weekly thing, and this book is pretty out of date, so don't get frustrated about the numbers that they're doing. It says federal withholding taxes were $48. Where did that $48 come from? If they said federal withholding taxes, where did that $48 come from? That chart. You went through, they went through that chart and found that number for you. Okay? So we're going to subtract that out. Fed withholding. But this is from the chart. So in some instances, you'll have to do this yourself. They just did it for you in this particular case. Social Security, Medicare, health insurance. So Social Security and medical care, or Medicare, sorry. They don't give you numbers, so that tells you you have to find the answer. So here, it doesn't really matter. They're asking you for your total deduction. So I'm going to take 426 times what? 0.0765, right? So again, this is for my, what do we call these? FICA taxes. So again, you could do them individually, or you could do it by punching it in as one thing. But again, get that decimal into your head. So 426 times 0.0765. Here again, do not round until the very, very end. $32.589. But don't round to the very end. Okay? Health insurance of $45.80. See, so they're doing it the same way we do it here. They're just taking out their health insurance. And they also had union dues. What are union dues? What? What are union dues? What's a union?
It's a group of workers that is a group.
Okay. The group of workers that kind of are working together. And why would you want to join the union? Okay, maybe paid more. For protection's a good one. Why would you get paid more if you're in the union?
Share salaries.
Okay, maybe. What else? If I was a part of the union and Jeff was our boss and we thought we were getting screwed, we as the union could go to him and say, hey, here's your options. You either pay us more or what? We quit. We start walking. We protest. Okay? But as a union, it'd be way easier for us as a group compared to Molly saying, hey, Jeff, I want a raise. If I don't get a raise, I'm walking. He's like, all right, see you later. I can find somebody else. But if everybody quits at the same time, can he run his business? Probably not. So the union's kind of a stronghold together. So what do we get? Take my beginning to the end. So again, remember, this is my gross pay. And you need to know or recognize these vocabulary words. What's my end called? This is my net pay. The net pay, again, is your take-home. What am I taking home? What do I get to actually send to the bank or get cash for it? So I subtract everything, and what's my grand total?
$287.051.
0.051. So let's say 0.05, right? So, if we can basically say this is going to happen every single time, this was what? It doesn't really say, right? If this is a monthly thing, a weekly thing, we hope this is a weekly thing, right? So then we would take this times 4, and how much would we make for a month?
$1,148.20.
Okay. So roughly then we would have to make a budget using that number right there. Can we pay all of our bills? That would tell you then, do I have to get a second job? Do I have to find a sugar daddy? Something, right? You'd probably want a sugar mama. All right? That makes sense though?
Where'd you get 4 from?
I'm just saying, I'm hoping this is a weekly amount, so if I know that this is probably pretty consistent for a week, then this is my monthly budget number. Okay? But again, this book's pretty old, so those numbers are probably pretty low. Okay. You want to go through more?
No.
So the only thing that's different here, I just want to show you this next one right here. It says Jay's gross pay is $400. Jay is single and has 1 federal withholding. So that's where you would take that information and go back to page 4142 and use that chart instead of them telling you about the $48. Okay? That makes sense? And here he actually has a savings plan instead of union dues. So a savings plan, maybe that's like his retirement. He's putting $40 into retirement every single month or week or whatever it happens to be.
Will we be able to use that chart on a quiz test?
Yes, you don't have to memorize the charts.
Yes, it will.
Okay. But that's it. So, here's the big difference though. These were federal withholding allowances. We still haven't gotten to federal income taxes yet. There's a little difference, and we'll go over that tomorrow. Okay? Questions? The one, Donald, that you would have to remember are these percentages, though.
All right.
Okay? So you got to memorize that stuff.
Yes, sir. Close.
Today even or odd?
I don't know, I thought you said, did you say day two?